activate.
For new subscribers, for the full month of November, you can subscribe to the network, and it will be absolutely free.
Oh my god, that is funny!
There you go.
And who's to say people, they might subscribe for November, but then just drop it after November.
Yeah. So yeah, we got a free month.
Yeah, we got a free month then,
And now, here's Tyler Warner and Wayne Kitch.
Yes, it was actually Tyler Warner solo today, as far as being on the mic goes, and yeah, I'm reminded that when I checked my email yesterday that actually my month for November was not free on the WWE Network because my payment reminder from PayPal, that email came around like it does every month, and so but for those who did subscribe for free this month, I guess new subscribers, and hopefully you enjoyed your free month. And that's I guess the basics of this show. I mean, obviously coming off of Survivor Series, which was free, of course, if you were a new subscriber, but not for people like me who were subscribed. And basically, as I just mentioned, actually Wayne is not on the show today because up here in Pennsylvania, for those who aren't aware, obviously we had a snowstorm this past week right before Thanksgiving. So what we decided is I'd let Wayne, I guess, tell me via Facebook, I guess his overall thoughts on what went down at Survivor Series and Raw the next night. And so I'll use what he said as a reference for today's show as far as his participation due to the snow we got up here. So made it easier to, I guess, just do like a solo edition here from home, so I didn't have to drive through the snow, I guess. So yeah, I mean, obviously starting with Survivor Series, which was a free pay-per-view, of course, for new subscribers. I mean, to me, and Wayne, I mean, it seems like it was kind of a mixed bag. It had its ups and it had its downs. First of all, heading into this pay-per-view, we kind of both thought, like, this is a pretty, in terms of quantity, a low amount of actual matches on this pay-per-view. I mean, obviously you had the big Team Cena versus Team Authority main event. You had Dean Ambrose and Bray Wyatt for their first go-around. And, I mean, other than that, I mean, yeah, you had the Divas Championship match, which wasn't much of a match at all. And you had the, another one of those cluster F, I guess, fatal four-way tag team matches, however those, things tend to work out. I mean, whatever. I mean, I guess it's a way to get more people on the card in some way, but I don't know, maybe, I think maybe a traditional one team versus another team tag match might have been better there, but nevertheless, I mean, that was it was a nice way, I guess, to get Mizdow and the Miz, Damien Mizdow, I guess, obviously the bigger name there in a sense of people that actually care about the gimmick there. Obviously, that was to me one of the highlights of the show, and I think to Wayne here as well. And I mean, because with the whole Stardust and Goldust thing, I mean, I was since the Usos lost the titles. I mean, after their feud with Luke Harper and Eric Rowan back in the summer, the titles went to obviously Goldust and Stardust, and to me, I mean, the tag team titles became less and less interesting over the past few months. But and maybe WWE realized this, and they put the belt on the Miz, and more importantly, Damien Mizdow. That it seems maybe people will actually care about this storyline. How this team goes forward with the tag team titles more so than Stardust and Goldust, which again, I mean, we've had our criticisms on that certainly. But no, I mean, I was interested, and then the Miz is holding both of the belts up, and of course Damien Mizdow, with none of the belts, just I guess pretending to hold up belts there at the end. It was a good, obviously one of the high moments of the show, and I mean, yeah, maybe a bit of a surprise to some, but in hindsight, I don't think it was too much of a surprise now that they did that, given that this is a tag team that people might actually care about, and that Damien Mizdow is in some ways, relevant again. I mean, he's not coming out and dressing as random people anymore or whatever. He's this gimmick. He's people are cheering for him. They want Mizdow over the Miz, and I mean overall, I think it's a good thing for. This is more about Damien Mizdow and where things can go with him being a tag team champion more so than what the Miz is going to do here with the tag team belts. So that was obviously a good good moment earlier in the show, and it'll be interesting to see how things go forward with that. Now, as far as some of these other matches goes, I mean, again, I mean, there wasn't a whole lot I really cared about until except for the Bray Wyatt and Dean Ambrose match in the main event. I mean, you had obviously you had Nikki Bella winning the Divas Championship from AJ Lee. I mean, it was kind of a Brie Bella, a distraction kiss, and then you had obviously you had the what do they call it, the rack attack from Nikki Bella or whatever it's called, and beating AJ Lee pretty easily. I mean, I don't know, it was kind of to me just a kind of a waste of a match there. And earlier in the show they had I don't know, they had a Divas elimination match, which again, I mean, I could have cared less about, and or I could not have cared less about, however you want to word it. And I'm pretty sure Wayne would say the same towards that. But as far as the important matches here goes, I guess. Well, Dean Ambrose and Bray Wyatt, I thought, yeah, we're having a pretty good match, certainly. But it seems to me, in hindsight, that this match was, which of course new subscribers got for free. It seems like this match was only used to say, hey, these two are going to have a tables, ladders, and chairs match at the TLC pay-per-view next month. At least that's what I got from it. I mean, they were having a good match here. I mean, certainly some back and forth action and, some memorable moments certainly in this match. But, again, I mean, the whole idea was that these two guys, they're unstable and everything, and a chair was brought into the ring, and Dean Ambrose is holding it, and he's debating whether or not he's gonna hit Bray Wyatt with the chair, and eventually, sure enough, he did eventually, and then Bray Wyatt is kind of out. Dean Ambrose puts him through a table, jumps off the top rope and everything, and then Dean Ambrose proceeds to throw more chairs in the ring, etc. Brings in a ladder, climbs to the top of it. Again, to kind of symbolize that, hey, I mean, we're going to take this to tables, ladders, and chairs. And, surely enough, about a minute later, it was announced that, oh, hey, Bray Wyatt and Dean Ambrose are going to face off at tables, ladders, and chairs in a tables, ladders, and chairs match. So, I don't know how people felt about that. I mean, again, it was a pretty good match while it lasted, a DQ finish, and essentially it's going to culminate in a more important match, which I guess at TLC, which I guess we assumed would happen. I mean, Bray Wyatt would win the first one here, albeit it was in a DQ finish. And, yeah, I mean, after that, I mean, WWE basically says, hey, these two guys are going to face off at TLC in a TLC match. So, I don't know. It kind of, it felt like one of those typical WWE things, that we're used to, and I guess in recent recent days here, looking at the product. Um, Now, other than that, like I said, it seemed like there was going to be a lot of space to fill on this pay-per-view because there weren't too many matches really on the card heading into it here. So, of course, opening up the show, you had an Authority promo and John Cena, and throughout the night you had backstage segments. The teams getting hyped up and ready to go out there and win the match and everything. So obviously they would find ways to fill some of the extra time, I guess, that they had on their hands, since they didn't really spend it with other matches pretty much. I guess with that in mind, that brings us to the actual main event of the pay-per-view. Team Authority versus Team Cena heading into this match. Now, obviously, this was, highlighted down the stretch by Dolph Ziggler and kind of his ability to stay in the match when it was 3-on-1 and everything. And of course, Sting made his big return. I guess I shouldn't say return, but his WWE debut, actually, his first appearance in a WWE arena, as it was mentioned. Then again, so many people seem to be returning lately that, I guess you're tempted to say return in that situation. But anyhow, so the match starts off, and right away, it kind of a surprise knockout punch from Big Show on Mark Henry. Triple H trying to fire Mark Henry up. Mark Henry just turns around and kind of right away eats a knockout punch and gets eliminated right off the bat. So suddenly the odds were in Team Cena's favor, of course. But then eventually Ryback's in the match, and he goes on a little run of momentum, and quickly he's oddly enough, to my surprise, he is pretty easily eliminate, not too long, he eats a curb stomp, and he's the first guy eliminated from Team Cena. And I was personally a little disappointed in this, because we would have thought that, the guy that was, kind of like the wild card heading into this, at first he was going to be part of Team Authority, and then eventually, Team Ryback or whatever is his own team. And then eventually he does join Team Cena. I mean, the way that he joined it, on the last edition of Raw before the pay-per-view, and just the way, they bring him back, they kind of like repackaged him a little bit, kind of returned him to, the big guy, as the big guy is back and everything. I was a bit underwhelmed to that, as to how he was eliminated pretty quickly. And, last week in the Great Wrestling Debate, Wayne and I kind of, made a possible theory, like, what if, Ryback is like the last guy on Team Cena or whatever, and he's like, he leads the charge at the end, or, something like that. I mean, it worked. I guess things worked with Dolph Ziggler. I mean, it was a bit unpredictable, and it was interesting. And certainly when it came down to Dolph Ziggler and Seth Rollins, I mean, maybe, considering those two guys are great in-ring workers and everything, maybe they had some chemistry to, pull off an interesting end to the match. I mean, that's fine, but, Ryback getting eliminated as quickly and fairly easily as he did, I mean, that was a bit of a disappointment. And, it kind of reminds me of Survivor Series a couple of years ago when, like, The Miz was like this wild card guy in a similar fashion. He's like, he was hyped up as maybe having a repush and maybe a more legitimate gimmick than he did before. And then, he gets tagged in the match, and he has like a 1 minute run of momentum, and then quickly after that he was eliminated. And this was the guy that was on the the poster of the pay-per-view, if I remember correctly. And I remember 2 years ago, sitting here and pointing out the same thing. Like, it's like, he was supposed to be like a big wild card here in this match, and he didn't do anything really at all in the match. He only got eliminated after a minute, and I was a bit disappointed here with Ryback, and because now I feel, maybe they're just gonna, maybe he's gonna go back down to the mid card here, and I don't know if WWE like was deliberate about this, but the next night on Raw, he would face Mark Henry, I guess, and easily beat him. I mean, it's like they thought, hey, the first guy that was eliminated from Team Cena against the first guy that was eliminated easily from Team Authority. Let's put the two guys together in a match. I mean that sounds great, doesn't it? So, but yeah, Ryback getting an easy win, I guess, the next night on Raw on that. But I guess that doesn't say much, given as how Mark Henry has not looked very strong at all as of late. And certainly when you have John Cena rolling out sexual chocolate jokes on Raw the week before, I guess certainly that isn't helping the cause either. So as far as taking Mark Henry seriously right now, so I don't know. I mean, I guess we'll wait and see what they do with Ryback here, but I thought that hurt him a little bit, and I was again a bit surprised because Dolph Ziggler looked great in this and everything, but at the same time I'm thinking, I just don't see them putting him back in the main event picture suddenly, and I don't see him getting a renewed push here. I mean, the guy, he just lost the Intercontinental Championship last week, and I don't trust WWE that suddenly this is going to mean that Dolph Ziggler is going to get this main event push or anything. It's just one of those things that knowing WWE, before we know it, Dolph Ziggler will, go back down to looking like a mid-carder in a few weeks and everything. So, disappointed in how they used Ryback here. Now, of course, one of the twists in this match was Big Show at one point knocking out John Cena, turning on Team Cena, kind of selling out for the to the Authority and everything, and then just leaving the ring and leaving the match, essentially eliminated himself from Team Cena in a sense. So yeah, I mean that was a fine twist and all, I guess. I don't know. It feels like the third time in 2 years now that Big Show has been down this road. And then, the next night on Raw, like the other two times he's turned on Cena like this, or, sold out to John Laurinaitis or the Authority. It's like a, deja vu here. He comes out the next night on Raw, dressed in all dressed up in a suit for the first time in a long time, and cuts like what feels like the same promo that he cut the other two times or whatever he did this in the past couple of years. So I don't know, deja vu there, but so that you had Cena and Big Show out of the match there. Then, of course they they took Rusev doing a splash through the table that unfortunately for him, the guy gets out of the way and he kind of just splashes himself through the table, and I guess they protect him here by having him get counted out and not pinned. So,
Oh my god!
yeah, I'm not surprised that this is how WWE went about that. So, that again, I mean, but, I guess a way to keep him unpinned still here in his run here in WWE. So, I guess that's fine and dandy. So, yeah, again, I mean, then at one point, I mean, essentially, Dolph Ziggler is left 1-on-3 against Seth Rollins, against Kane, and against Luke Harper. And, yeah, I mean, again, I mean, Dolph Ziggler stays alive here in this match just when you think he's about to get eliminated. And it certainly was an exciting finish down the stretch here. But again, I mean, I would have liked if, it's fine if they're going to have Dolph Ziggler kind of be the guy here that makes the huge comeback here and survives. But I mean, it would have at least been nice to see, Ryback down the stretch there, surviving as well, at least to some extent. But again, for whatever reason, they chose to eliminate him, rather early in the match, and first on off of Team Cena. So, but nevertheless, I mean, it was exciting with Dolph Ziggler at the end there of the match. Um, Obviously you had, especially with Seth Rollins, some back back and forth signature moves and finishers and kicking out of finishers and Triple H on the side, just in disbelief when Dolph Ziggler's kicking out and everything, and etc. And really like Jerry. I mean, even the commentators were into this here more so than you know. I mean, you had Jerry Lawler doing his typical scream multiple times that you just don't hear him do most often these days. But it felt like, this was like authentic reaction here to what was going on in the ring. They actually seemed into this match again more so than usual. I mean, Michael Cole's always. It seems like Michael Cole's always in the match here. I mean, but more so than usual. I mean, at one point he's just like, I've got goosebumps and etc. So definitely, I mean, certainly it showed this was an exciting match down the stretch here, and to some extent, throughout. But again, I mean, Dolph Ziggler coming down the wire here, and Triple H, I guess, utilizing Plan B and at times pulling the referee out of the ring, and that was about to count, supposedly count a 3 count, and beating up another referee that comes out to count a pin, and Triple H and some other authority cronies, of course, getting involved in the match, and eventually Sting makes his surprise debut here on Survivor Series in WWE, comes out and kind of stares down Triple H for a while. Obviously, it's been rumored that maybe Triple H and Sting will go at it at WrestleMania, and after what happened here, I mean, it looks like that's very possible. And of course, Sting doing using his DDT, his reverse DDT on Triple H here, and kind of knocking him down for a while, and Stephanie McMahon at one point gets bumped into on the ring apron and knocked off. Hey, I mean, just everybody else that was interfering in this match. I mean, the one criticism I have is that, for whatever, I mean, it seems like everybody here, even though not much really happened to them, it seemed like, everybody was just like totally knocked unconscious for like 10 minutes here, when normally, that would not be the case. But I guess for this case, again, I mean, everybody was knocked unconscious for 10 minutes, even though, I mean, it's not like, they got beaten to a pulpit with a steel chair 40 times or whatever. But whatever. I mean, it's WWE. It's, it seems like, well, the past 3 main events, at pay-per-views, there's been shenanigans. So, it'd be nice if they could maybe break that cycle a little more often, and maybe just let Dolph Ziggler and Seth Rollins, having a more natural conclusion to the match than all these people, everybody getting involved, and like every other pay-per-view it seems, and some shenanigans happening. But that's how they chose to win about it, and again, it was nice to see Sting make a surprise debut, and kind of an upset victory there at the end with Dolph Ziggler, and leading Team Cena there at the end. But it'd be nice if they could maybe figure out, or choose interesting ways to end pay-per-views without having interferences and shenanigans always get involved in every pay-per-view main event. I don't know. That's one of the main criticisms I had. I mean, you still could have had a way for Sting to return there at the end and do the same thing with Triple H, but and then not had all these interferences, referees getting pulled out. I mean, again, I would have just said let Seth Rollins and Dolph Ziggler continued to be the guys that drive the suspense here, not all these referees getting beat up and everything, and because we have too much of that when it comes to pay-per-view main events as of late. I mean, Bray Wyatt at Hell in a Cell, and that and before that, obviously the shenanigans with Night of Champions and Brock Lesnar and everything. It's just every now and then I guess it's all right to have some kind of shenanigans like that with the main event at a pay-per-view, but not 3 pay-per-views in a row, at least in my opinion. So yeah, that was basically that, and then Team Authority, I guess was supposedly they realized they were going to get fired, but kind of like I was saying last week, regardless of what happens, I mean, somehow Team Authority, something's going to happen however the match turns out, and at the end of the day, Team Authority will be running the place still, and regardless of what John Cena says or as being the guy who runs the place, and it's kind of funny how they've been saying that in recent weeks, and then how ironically, to some extent now, it's like he is running the place, and yet he's not really. But so that led to the next night on Raw, which Wayne, I guess, prefaced as saying Raw was terrible, and I mean, so I would kind of agree with that too, and I mean, with the kind of effort that WWE I think put into Raw the next night, as much effort as there was there, as much effort as really I'm gonna even give in reviewing it, because I mean that's kind of the way it is to me. I mean, if it's clearly a show that doesn't seem like there's much effort put behind it all, then typically I don't put a whole lot of effort into watching it, or I'll be doing something else while I'm watching Raw on YouTube or whatever, because I'm sorry, but most of the time I'm gonna at this time of the year I'm gonna be watching what's going down on Monday Night Football as we get close to the playoffs, rather than watching some bad editions of Monday Night Raw. So yeah, at the end of the day, that'll typically come first, especially with knowing how Raw can be pretty lackluster as of late. So, but nevertheless, I mean, it began with an Authority promo, kind of them kind of saying goodbye and everything, I guess, and that you guys will miss us and everything. We do what's best for business and all that. And I mean, later on, Vince McMahon and them are going home in the limo, and again, I mean, Vince McMahon kind of says here like how somehow you guys are gonna fix us and everything. So obviously this is not over, and it can only be a matter of a couple of weeks until the Authority is back in power and everything, and quite frankly, I hope they do, because this edition of Monday Night Raw it was one of those silly, like sunshine and everything sunshine and rainbows in the WWE, and we're just going to have a hijinks-filled night of Monday Night Raw, and nothing really worthwhile watching. I mean, that was basically my overall thoughts here with this edition of Monday Night Raw. The only thing I felt like that really progressed here off of Survivor Series was, again, the Authority and everything. We're going to come back and fix this, and just wait when in 2 or 3 weeks this place is going to be closing its doors and everything like that, and etc. And yeah, I mean, in some sense that's true. I mean, it's because without the Authority really on Raw and everything, I mean, yeah, it was nice having Daniel Bryan in charge of Raw, but it again, I mean, having him make a like a surprise for everything. Obviously not competing or anything, but running the show in a sense. That was cool and all, but again, I mean, after the beginning of Raw, there was just nothing really at all on this episode that was interesting and worth my undivided attention. That's basically what I got out of this. And again, I mean, basically, it's just wait and see when the story actually progresses again. And oh, by the way, I forgot to mention also on the Survivor Series pay-per-view that, of course, Roman Reigns had a surprise little via satellite interview or whatever, I guess. And of course, yeah, of course, I mentioned how I don't know, maybe it was last week or a couple weeks ago on the Great Wrestling Debate, how Reigns was supposedly taking acting lessons and everything before his return, um, and I think in this short little via satellite interview, I guess here or whatever. I mean, it's like the third time they did this in the past couple of months. I thought Roman Reigns was pretty darn good here I mean, he had that nice line like, if I was there, I'd cocked his fist and let it rain in that bitch and everything, and and just like I don't know, his facial expressions and everything, it did seem like he was a little more fine tuned here as far as in the acting department, I guess maybe so. I mean, that's obviously it's a different story when you're in the ring and cutting lengthy promos and or whatever, going back and forth with guys like John Cena or whatever. This was pretty good and probably the best of the the recent via satellite interviews or whatever he's been doing. I thought it showed a little promise there, and I was short little interview, but I thought it was pretty good. And Roman Reigns announcing that he'll return in about a month here on WWE. So that should be interesting, obviously, to see when he comes back. Maybe if these acting lessons are have been rubbing off on him well enough. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. And again with this whole authority feud, which again is far from over. I'm pretty sure in a couple of weeks they'll be back and there'll be some kind of caveat, and who knows with Vince McMahon, and they get reinstated and everything, and or something like that. And that's it will kind of be right back to where we were, and essentially what went down at Survivor Series will really not have mattered that much at all. So, but then again, I mean, new subscribers, it was a free pay-per-view for you guys, so I guess don't complain when that when these kind of things happen. So that's what I got out of that on Monday Night Raw. That's really again the only thing that really progressed here. I mean, Luke Harper, he put his his Intercontinental Championship was put on the line against Dean Ambrose, but again, I mean, you would expect shenanigans on that, and again, Bray Wyatt. I'm pretty sure Dean Ambrose is not going to win the Intercontinental Championship when he's got a match with Bray Wyatt at TLC already in the mix. So I guess jokes on the WWE team there for that. So yeah, I mean, basically everybody else kind of went back. Again, I mean, Luke Harper back to his place. Now he's Intercontinental Champion, and of course, so Eric Rowan and Luke Harper might have an interesting feud to come, certainly. So that's interesting. And again, I mean, Daniel Bryan was running things tonight. He had a WWE app vote to determine the main event, which was essentially John Cena and Dolph Ziggler team up against either Mark Henry and Luke Harper, or Mark Henry and Kane or whatever, and then Joey Mercury and Jamie Noble, and it was silly. I mean, everybody knew that they were gonna it was gonna be letter C or whatever. Jamie Noble, the two little henchmen from the Authority. Everybody knew that's what was gonna happen. It was gonna be one of those stupid comedy like main events with John Cena and Dolph Ziggler, and it was kind of just a waste of a main event, and I really wasn't interested in that at all later on in the show. You had, I mean, as far as, comedy throughout the night, you had You had corporate Kane now being put as concession Kane by Daniel Bryan. So yeah, I mean backstage somewhere, supposedly Kane was running this concession stand where, of course, nobody else is really allowed, but a few wrestlers that will pass by there at night. So it's like whatever there, I guess. But um, it seemed like there were people, you know, off in the set somewhere, I guess watching this or whatever, to provide uh, some applause or whatever, right? When Larry the Cable Guy would go back there and Ryback later, and yeah, I mean, of course, it was announced last week that Larry the Cable Guy was gonna guest star on this episode of Monday Night Raw, and I know Wayne's a typically a Larry the Cable Guy fan, but he was not a fan of Larry the Cable Guy here on this episode of Monday Night Raw, and yeah, I mean, I don't think the PG WWE environment um, is maybe meant for Larry the Cable Guy. I mean, I don't know. I mean, stand up comedy and everything is more of Larry Cable Guy's thing, and I don't know, coming out for a wrestling show and trying to use PG jokes and everything that fits the WWE frame of reference. I don't think it was in their best interests, and yeah, I mean it's not like they did anything really important here. I mean it was to promote this movie that's coming out with him and Santino Morella, of course, this Christmas movie and everything, and a couple hijinks there, but it didn't really lead to anything important. And I mean, not only that, I mean, Larry the Cable Guy was like shirtless out in this, this promo and everything, and I don't know, it just yeah, it didn't go over very well to me, and I'm pretty sure most of the people out there that watched it. Um, and then yeah, later on he had this backstage segment with Santino Morella at the concession cane stand, and with hot dogs, and again, it kind of brought me back to the Dean Ambrose thing a month or so ago, and squirting ketchup and mustard at everybody, and um, and then later on you had Ryback take a stop by the concession stand after beating Mark Henry easily earlier on the show. Nothing too exciting there. You had him take a stop by the concession stand and I guess order uh, 2 cans of tuna fish or whatever, a protein shake with extra protein for the big guy, and and what I guess a big bag of beef jerky or whatever.
It's like sweet sour pork, right?
And yeah, Kane says they're all out of that, and then he like flings a hot dog at him, says that we have a hot dog, and Ryback pushes the table back and kind of traps Kane there, and throwing popcorn at each other and squirting more ketchup and mustard and whatever, and Kane runs away or whatever, and Ryback says, you forgot your nuts, stupid, and I don't know. I mean, I don't. It was all right, but yeah, again, I mean, I wish they could find some more important things to do with Ryback than kind of returning to this old kind of comedy, these kind of comedy bits with involving food and whatever else with feeding Ryback and everything. I don't know, but again, I mean, hopefully they'll find some more important things to do with him down the road here. As in general, they didn't have too many important things to do with anybody on this episode of Monday Night Raw, including John Cena and Dolph Ziggler. So, overall, you had a pretty unimportant edition of Monday Night Raw as a result. And yeah, again, like I said earlier, I mean, you had Big Show, who it seems like now he pulled the same heel turn for the third time that he, in the past 2 years. Again, a knockout blow to John Cena in that main event Survivor Series match, and yeah, Big Show coming out dressed in a suit again. Again, it's like deja vu, and yeah, cutting a promo and everything, and I guess he's back to being heel, and trying to save money for for his family and everything, and they're kind of bringing that whole thing out like they did last year when he was feuding with the Authority and everything, how he was broke and this and that, and yeah, I mean just the same old stuff here, and yeah, I mean yeah, as far as Wayne goes, I mean main event sucked and Big Show promos sucked. Larry the Cable Guy sucked. Best moment was Brian's return, and yeah, I mean pretty much that early part of the show again was the only relevant part of this episode of Monday Night Raw. Um, so it was all downhill after that pretty much, and yeah, I mean kind of a wasted appearance for Larry the Cable Guy. Waste of a main event. Um, yeah, I mean maybe a waste of a Big Show heel turn promo, and I don't know. We'll see what he does now. Eric Rowan coming out and everything, and I don't know. Hopefully they pick it back up next week, um, and get things back on track, and maybe progress from this. I know that I'm hearing that Paul Heyman's supposed to make an appearance on the next edition of Monday Night Raw to kind of re-promote Brock Lesnar. Um, and I hear the week after that, then Brock Lesnar might be appearing on Raw. So we'll see what happens. But um, again, I mean, Survivor Series, yeah, it was pretty interesting. It had its moments. It had its moments that I was critical of, but it had its excitement moments as well. But a mixed bag there. And then Raw was pretty bad, as I mentioned. I don't care what Jerry Lawler says. Like, oh, this is maybe the best episode of Monday Night Raw ever. No, it's probably one of the worst episodes of Monday Night Raw ever, and to say the least. And
I agree.
yeah, hopefully they pick it back up next week, and we'll see. Again, we'll see with this whole Authority thing, how things go, and again, when Roman Reigns returns, that should make things more interesting, and maybe when Brock Lesnar comes back, I don't know, maybe when Randy Orton's back, certainly that can help things out, and we'll probably see guys like Dolph Ziggler right back down in the mid card as we're like we're used to seeing, and WWE will have conned us basically into thinking that, oh, maybe this is another Dolph Ziggler push here, and yeah, I mean, again, I mean, it was nice seeing what happened at Survivor Series. It was an interesting finish, even though it had a lot of interference. But I'm pretty sure at the end of the day, this pay-per-view will have little bearing, because I'm sure Team Authority is going to be reinstated or something, and there's, going to be some kind of storyline twist here. So yeah, that's pretty much that. That'll wrap it up for this solo edition of the Great Wrestling Debate. But next week, both Wayne and I shall be back to discuss what happens on this coming week's edition of Monday Night Raw, which again is hopefully better than what we saw this past week on Raw, and yeah, and discuss what I guess is going to go down as we head through the month of December with WWE, and yeah, we'll go from there pretty much as we normally do, as long as there's no other major snowstorms again or anything like that, because that kind of messed things up a little bit this week. But nevertheless, it was an eventful week in WWE, mainly the Survivor Series pay-per-view, and certainly as Triple H would say, it was best for business for this channel for me to at least come on and do something, and at least use some thoughts from Wayne via Facebook that we could use to talk about on this episode of the Great Wrestling Debate, so we weren't leaving everything in the balance for another week until we even talk about any wrestling issues on this channel. So yeah, I mean, it was I figured I'd do that over the Thanksgiving week here, and bring that to you. So if you haven't already, I mean, subscribe to this channel. You know, tune in next week. Send your comments, your thoughts, or whatever. And I'm sure next week we're going to be talking about CM Punk's appearance on the Colt Cabana podcast, which, of course, Wayne brought up a long time ago, like back in January, about he would eventually, come out and kind of discuss things on there. So, stay tuned for that as well, right here on the channel. And yep. Until then, enjoy wrestling if you can, and tune in to next week's edition of the Great Wrestling Debate, right here on the YouTube channel, as always.